Dear Mother, welcome to Sana Mama, a space to honour the unspoken truths of mothering, where birth and death, joy and heartbreak intertwine. Here we hold space for the stories we don't always share, beyond the polished ideals and into the raw and real, through the tender spaces of loss, life, and everything in between. For the mothers who carry their children in their arms, and for those who carry them in their hearts, Sana Mama is a place to explore the infinite ways mothering shapes and reshapes us. May we grieve, connect, and celebrate together, to embrace the messy, beautiful truth of this journey, and to remind one another that none of it has to be carried alone. This is Sana Mama, a letter to all mothers. In this episode of Sana Mama, I will be speaking with my beautiful friend Sally, who lost her twin boys in early 2024. This story shares her devastating loss and a very harsh media campaign against her after losing her two sons. If this is a story that may trigger you at all, I would really recommend to save this episode for a later date. If you like this podcast, it would be amazing if you could please leave us a review and subscribe, as it will help us to raise awareness to a very important topic. Okay. Hi, love.
Hello.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm honestly really honoured, and yeah, it feels like a big part because I actually haven't sat down and spoken with you yet since your loss and my loss properly. So
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about that today and see where the conversation goes. Yeah.
And we've like seen each other and like been in the space together, but not like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know the first time I saw you was at the Jane Hardwick Collings workshop, and that was like 2 months after I'd lost Ash, and I think that was like 7 months after you lost Dusty and Melvin.
Yeah.
So that was pretty big.
That was big. Like I was surprised that you were there, only because I think I was like 2 months after the boys passed, I went to go to like an all women's festival, and it was way too much for me, like so full on. I ended up there for a couple of hours and then leaving and forfeiting my ticket, and it was like kind of a drama because it was like camping and everyone had to pack my tent up and like evacuate me.
Wow.
And yeah, I remember you messaging me and I was almost going to be like, ooh, like, is this going to be too much? But you just like did it with so much grace, and I really felt like that was, so it was so important that you were there.
Yeah.
And I knew it was hard for you, but you were like, you were shining.
Oh, thanks, babe. I felt like I dissociated through a lot of it, to be honest. Like there was so much coming up where I was like, this is really triggering, and there's a baby crying in the corner over there, and that is really, really triggering.
Yeah.
But I know I'm really held in this space, and I know that no one here is putting any shame or judgment on me, and that felt safe, even though it was like an entire day about like pregnancy and birth, and everyone's sharing their fears about, oh, you know, like what if my baby dies? And I'm sitting there being like, yeah, living that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, felt that
was
support
big
from you.
That was like probably the third time in public I had spoken about my journey. But like I felt you when the circle went around. I felt nervous for you, and I was like, oh shit, like what, is she okay? And yeah, I had a similar experience at choir, and we were all sitting there and everyone ran around the circle and shared, and I was petrified. Like even thinking about it like gives me anxiety, and it finally came to me and I was like, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to say something like really chill. And it got to me and I was just like burst open, and like after that, the weight feels so much less. You're like, okay, I just said it in front of like a room of people where I felt safe, but I didn't necessarily know them. Like, it's okay. And you realize that when you're in situations where you feel held and comfortable, like no one's going to judge you. And yeah, once you kind of like get through that first barrier, it becomes a little bit easier every time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finding that too, especially obviously sharing my story recently, and you've shared yours so publicly from day one, which is like not your intention at all. Like you got really thrown in the deep end there, and I can imagine that's also really hard because your voice got stolen from you in the way that you never got the opportunity to tell it the first time how you wanted to tell it because someone else muddled the entire story on your behalf, and that's so horrible. And yeah, what's it been like for you to reclaim that story and the truth of it?
Yeah, so big. Like, I just remember like it was probably 3 days. It was probably 3 days postpartum. And one of my friends from high school sent me a message on Instagram and was like, don't listen to what the media says. Like, your pregnancy was amazing. And I was just like, what is he talking about? And I had no idea that it was just blowing up everywhere. And yeah, all of a sudden I had friends messaging me being like, don't check this, like trying to, I guess, yeah, like protect me. But it was impossible not to, see everything.
Yeah.
And I tried to not feed into it, but there was a part of me that wanted to defend like my children and myself, but also I wasn't ready to put anything on social media, but I felt like I had to. Like, it was like I needed to tell my story to kind of claim back some of my dignity almost. And even that first post I did, I tried to make it very like beautiful and poetic, and that got taken. And then it just became this like, just almost everything I would post is just like, oh yeah, of course, they're taking it again. And yeah, when I did the Free Birth Society podcast, it felt really good kind of like telling my story in the entirety, but it only came out like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I felt like when I did the podcast with Kashia and Chloe, that felt like a real like reclaiming. And I felt really strong that day. You obviously know you have days where you're like, I'm good. Like, yeah. And then you just have days where it's like, just anything can kind of break your bubble. And yeah, so I really felt that, yeah, like, as you probably know, like when other people hold space for you in the right way and you feel heard, it's like that, yeah, you get some kind of like relief and healing. And yeah, not everyone can like hold that, that's for sure. And yeah, you get trolls and people criticizing you, and then you have people that you barely even know like showing up for you and creating space for you to be vulnerable. And it's in those moments you're like, oh, like I have hope in humanity.
Yeah.
And yeah, just reclaiming that truth has been really big for me. And now like no troll can like, yeah, dull anything for me. I just think it's, yeah, I just think it's really low level if you kind of criticize anyone for their choices in birth.
Yeah.
And us as women, we have to support each other. Like, no matter how you're birthing or how you're raising your children, like if we start criticizing each other, it just creates so much negative energy. It's not necessary.
Yeah. Well, it's not really raising the collective energy of what we need in birth, like to instigate more fear and shame within a woman's body before she goes into like the most sacred portal of giving birth to a baby. And then especially once you go through something like what we've experienced, then those people come out and just make it so much harder for you to get through like the most sacred window of both birth and death. And it's just beyond me that people think that they even deserve to have an opinion. And I would challenge any of those people to come up to you onto the street and say any of those things, because there's no way that they could do it. No. We live behind the lenses of podcasts and Instagram and all of these platforms where we can sit back and say like, oh my gosh, like this and that, have an opinion. But there's no way that someone's humanity, and there are certain people, but there's no way someone's humanity would actually allow them to do that to you face to face. I don't believe that those people could have done that face to face.
No way.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even really know the term keyboard warrior before what I went through. Like, I don't have Reddit. I don't like listen to the news. I'm not really like in that world. Like, Instagram's enough for me, and Substack's like another kind of thing. But like even TikTok and Twitter and all of that, like it's just, I just think there's just so much like overstimulation and so many opinions. And yeah, when someone said the term keyboard warrior, I was like, what? Like,
yeah.
And yeah, discovering that kind of plane exists is, yeah, very like interesting to me. Yeah.
I know a lot about your story, obviously, and I know there are probably people listening that don't, so I'd love to get into your story. But touching on that, I'd love to know how you're feeling about the paramedic who actually was the reason for the media campaign against you.
Yeah, I feel heartbroken, honestly, like to rely on the medical system for help and to have, you know, to invite these people into my house unwillingly and to trust them and to, you know, look to them for advice in a life-threatening situation, and then to have that turned around. It's just so sad. Like, not even for me, but just so like the fact that people can do that is just like, yeah, it's just so tragic. And yeah, I'm in this place at the moment where I don't like, you know, like people have said to me that I should go to court and, you know, pursue that. And it's definitely like on my mind, but like I don't need to rush it either. Like, it'll happen if it needs to happen kind of thing. But yeah, I just think it's really sad that was someone's thought process after they tried to help us, you know? And yeah, I'm not naive to not think that mine and my partner's appearance and like the way that we live played into that, because you've met my partner, he's head to toe covered in tattoos, and, you know, like our house is very adorned in like crazy art, and, you know, we're both quite eccentric, and, you know, you put the word free birth into that, and yeah, like I know that might have potentially played a part in it, but it still doesn't make sense to me. But, you know, like through all of this, I just see the lessons in everything, and like I would have loved for that not to have happened, but it did. So now it's just like, how can I move through and become like a stronger voice than the truth that they told, you know, and tell my truth so that people can understand like me and not that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, like, as cliche as it is, there is cliches for a reason, and like judging a book by its cover is the worst thing you can do, because you guys are so generous and so loving, and you've been such an incredible support to me, and it's like no tattoo could tell me otherwise, that you're not a good person. And so to like ruin someone's life in that moment, or make the attempt to at least, to tarnish like the sacredness of what you were going through in that moment, is just horrific.
Yeah. It was scary. Yeah. Like we had moments, especially like my partner was like, like he had moments where he was like, a news crew gonna rock up out the front of our house, like every car that went past, I was like, and where, you know, we live in town, we don't really live anywhere private. So it was to have that layer on top of all of my grief. It was, yeah, it was like almost like the weeks where the coroners had the boys and we were just like in this coronial non-stop, as you know, like you were just on the phone and receiving this news and having to kind of, you know, process it and then also make decisions and then also try and like fight for certain things. To have that on top of like the grief, on top of, you know, the media, and then like having this like sense of fear for just like living my life, it was, yeah, pretty full on. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't wish it on like my enemies. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have said this so many times, like those weeks were akin to torture. It feels torturous. And I didn't even have the media storm around me. And in that regard, I'm so grateful that I was able to tell my story and speak the truth when I was ready to. But it is really akin to torture, and you had a whole new level of that.
Yeah, like it was actual torture. It's, yeah. Yeah, no one should have to move through that. It's, yeah, it's not fair. And like we did nothing wrong. Like that's the whole thing. It's like, yeah, that I actually couldn't believe what was playing out. Like I was like, what? And like 60 Minutes was trying to contact me, like all of these different newspapers were trying to contact me, and I was like, what? Like, yeah, it just really didn't make sense.
Wow.
And, you know, me and my partner kind of joked about it later, like imagining if we went on 60 Minutes and like what we would wear and like, yeah, we just like kind of made like a comical kind of like illusion about it. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Imagine if we got heaps normie and went on 60 Minutes.
Well, we would just be really crazy. Like, just not even answer any of the questions, just like fully deflect and talk about something else, just be like full loose cannons.
A bit Bill Gibson.
Yeah, yeah. Fully, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, funny.
But yeah, you find like the humor in it sometimes because it's just an absolute like rat race. Like it's just clickbait and money and power, and yeah, it's so not what I feed into in my life anyway. I try and steer clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you just celebrated, or celebrated's not even the right word. I remember messaging you the other day and being like, I don't even, like, I'm in this and I don't even know what to write. And I think it's really hard to understand and figure out what the right things to say are. But I know that you just got to the 1 year mark of your birth and of your boy's passing. And yeah, I guess 1 year on, how is it that you would tell your story of birth and death and how you've moved through the last year of grief and losing them?
Yeah. I mean, when it all was very, very fresh, I kind of, because of our Gregorian calendar, we always think like, what's it going to be like in a year? You know, we have that kind of timeline, and in a sense, it's almost a little bit like relieving, because I think because everyone marks like a year as like a significant time passing, it's like now I can say it happened last year. And it actually feels a little bit lighter. And I didn't expect that. I thought that, like, obviously, the grief never goes, and you find yourself in different challenges all the time. But yeah, that 1 year passing actually felt really beautiful. It just felt like I had space, and yeah, like for me, the biggest hurdle has been like my social anxiety, and yeah, that's been like has been like the hardest thing to kind of overcome. And now I feel so much more comfortable in public. And yeah, to just have that kind of like reprieve a little bit, actually felt, yeah, it felt good. And it felt really nice to like fully honor them again. Because yeah, you have like some days or some weeks where, I don't know, you get to a point where you might not have a conversation about your children, you know, or you'll have a day where you don't cry, and then they start to become more and more. And yeah, you don't want to, obviously, you're not trying to forget, but it definitely like, yeah, that 1 year passing felt like it gave me some strength. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and my life is, yeah, I couldn't imagine my life right now when it first happened. Well, first of all, I left my company and my business, and that's been like a very beautiful gift in its own kind of wrapping. And yeah, I feel like their birth was like the absolute like greatest, most powerful moment of my life. And their death has been again like this slow unwrapping of like the greatest gift that I've ever received. But yeah, like you get paper cuts and like yeah, there's so much in it, and it comes with like pain and sorrow and all of these things that you have to move through. But yeah, just the you know, the tether that I have to my spirituality and the spirit realm now is basically becoming like my life's work. So yeah, the gift is really profound.
That's really special. I know because you've been working on Spirit Mama, and you just had your first call back this morning.
Yeah.
How is that group evolving for you? What do you want to do with it in the future?
I mean, like if I could have one goal with my work, is I would change the coronial decision to be for mothers and not for the system. And like by potentially growing this community, you know, like I believe that community has power. And yeah, if I can grow it to a point that, I don't know, I can get in there and change something, then that would be incredible. But already I know that the work that I'm doing and the connections that I'm making and the community I'm building is already changing women's lives, that like that ripple is just so rewarding than anything that I could do otherwise.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, I think through like storytelling and connection, we have so much power to heal. And when we heal others and hold space for others, we receive that space in ourselves to also give ourselves permission to heal and to move through what we're moving through. So yeah, it's just been absolutely incredible. Like, yeah.
I mean, I was saying to Chloe and Kashia, like, you were one of the first people that I texted, and you were the only person that I knew to text to get information about what we were about to face. And I can't remember if I messaged you the day of or the day after, but you were like a force when you wrote back, like the most incredible force. You knew exactly what we were in for and sent the most incredibly helpful messages, and it opened my eyes so quickly to what we were about to face. And no one had said anything, like no one had addressed a single thing in the hospital. Like they'd basically just said, yeah, like, you know, you're probably going to have an autopsy for your son. And I was like screaming at them, and they were like, there's probably nothing you're going to be able to do about it. And I was like, no, I'm contesting this every single way. And then when I received your message, I was like, oh, I don't think I even have a choice. And you're right, like, it should be the mother's choice. And if a mother wants to, I understand, and all respect to you. But at least the parents, like, need to have that choice. And yeah, that's like, it's something that keeps me awake at night sometimes, is like thinking about that violation and knowing that you didn't want that to happen. That's like so difficult to live through. And yeah, you had to, you know, experience that with your boys, like both of them.
Yeah.
And how unjust that was and how cruel that was for them to keep them as long as they did. Yeah. I can only imagine it for like my one baby, and you've held so much strength and grace in like both of your boys' journey.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I remember when you messaged me, you were actually the third woman since my boys had passed that had reached out. So, yeah, it just felt like, yeah, I was absolutely devastated for you guys and just wanted to be whatever information I could give you because, yeah, we didn't have any of that. And we had Haley, who was obviously like an angel and supported us immediately and came in with so much information, but we didn't seek her out until like 2 weeks or a week and a half after the boys passed, because we didn't even know that that was an option until they told us. They were like, okay, who's your funeral director? You know, and if we had to sought her immediately, like things would have been different. And not to like scare women, but like having someone close to you or someone in your field of friends that knows how to deal with these kind of things is actually so like supportive, especially if you're deciding to free birth or to have, you know, a birth outside of the system. So yeah, like, yeah, I just, when we were speaking and you told me that they were going to do the brains as well, like that just, I just could not believe it. Like I thought, yeah, when we went through it, I was just like, I hope no one else has to go through this. It's like, yeah, just the worst experience that you can imagine. And, you know, there's so much in it. You're like, oh, they're not there anymore. It's just a body. But yeah, just, it's so invasive. It's so disrespectful. It's, yeah, it really ruined our chance of like any kind of ceremony or having like sacred moments. Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very difficult. And I'm so sorry you guys had to go through it as well. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, to be honest.
I mean, like I don't know if this was offered to you as well, but we, you know, had that call and our whole family was in the room.
Wow.
And everyone was just jaw on the floor, like,
Yeah.
what do you mean you're about to take his brain out of his skull and put it in a jar for 2 weeks? And they had offered to send his body back, like, without his brain in it. And
I can't.
I also completely respect, like, the parents that choose, obviously, to receive their child back sooner. I get that. But for me, I was like, how can you possibly expect me to say yes, like, and you're just going to dispose his brain in what, a medical waste bin or something? Like, you're not going to even send him back to us whole. We didn't want this to happen. Like, we expected, you know, okay, we're going to have a birth. We're going to have this beautiful baby boy. Obviously, that didn't happen. He did pass. But now you're just going to send him back in pieces. And it felt really disrespectful because I was like, you know nothing about us. Like, that's never something that I would ever agree to. And yeah, just the way that resonated through my body in those moments, like, you can't help it. If you're a human, you typically have an imagination to imagine the things that take place. Like, we know that they're not in their body anymore, but for me, I was still like, I still made that body. That body was my son's home. And to imagine like those things taking place to him was just like the most horrific.
It takes a different type of human to do that to a family, honestly. And yeah, we were pretty much like, I don't know what I've said, but like, so we got told initially that they didn't need autopsies, and we were like very happy about that, obviously, and that they were going to be returned straight away to our funeral home. And as the media came out, they changed their minds and they decided that they wanted to autopsy Dusty only. And then more media came out, and then they decided that they were going to do Melvin as well.
Yeah.
So it just felt like this, just this beast. And then, when we got the call about the brains, it was just like, oh, we had just been through so much, and to have that call and to beg, crying on the phone. And we actually said, like, no, we're gonna take this to court, because you can go to court. You go to the Supreme Court. If you say no to it, you obviously have a court case, and then even if you win, they can still do it. The only thing that you can stop happening is them sending the test results away. And we decided, we were like, we're gonna go to court and try and stop the whole process. We didn't know that it was just the test results. And my partner called them and said, we want to seek legal advice, and they put us through to like the legal team at the coroner's. And he was on the phone to them, and she goes, oh, they've already done it. Like, it was just like this, like, we were just like, words can barely even, just that moment was, shattering.
Yeah. So I'd love for you to tell your birth story of your boys, because I know you've got 3 sons.
Yeah.
You've got Casper, who's your firstborn.
Yeah.
And he's so cute, by the way. That day he ran up to you when we were on the street. It was like telling you not to get the dress or something. It was amazing. He was like, not
He was like, don't like it.
Yeah.
So we had a pretty, we didn't want to have we wanted to have a home birth with Casper, and things kind of didn't happen that way, and we ended up in the hospital, and I experienced some pretty traumatic events in the hospital, but came home with my baby and was just elated and just in a bubble and joy, and was so happy. And then I feel like when I got pregnant with the twins, all of that started to come up, and I started properly processing his birth and just everything we experienced, and we decided that we were going to free birth. And my pregnancy was incredible. I absolutely loved being pregnant with them, and it was very different with Casper. With Casper, I kind of just plowed through, was working the whole time, whereas with the twins, I was a bit more slow and was a lot more intentional, started meditating, and just started a really beautiful kind of journey with them. And I ended up free birthing them at 36 weeks at home. And it was just one of the most incredible experiences of my life. When I birthed Dusty, it was just me and Tom in the space, and I was holding him, and you just can't believe that you've done it, really. Not realizing what was about to unfold, obviously. And that moment of holding him and being with him in the space was the greatest moment of my life. And my birth keeper arrived, and I thought I was going to birth my placenta, and things felt a bit like stuck, but I was lying down, and she was like, oh, you can try like putting your leg up on the side of the birth pool. And I was like, yeah, that actually would feel really good. So I stood up and put my leg up, and she said, oh, it's another head. It's funny because like when I speak to my partner, he was like, he just imagined himself like changing nappies. But he was like, oh my God, like he felt like all of this love and joy come through, whereas I felt really confused. I was like, oh my God, another head, what? Because the whole time I was pregnant, I was like certain there was only one baby. And I also, when she said that, my intuition was like, no, it's my placenta. And he came out completely still and like almost like slid out of my body. Like it was such a different experience to birthing Dusty. Like he felt like a placenta, and he was like very soft and very pale, and yeah, like I was just in this moment of shock. And Dusty was quite small and Melvin was quite big, and just their differences was like a lot for me to process. And at the same time, Dusty, like as Melvin was born, he started to, like he was so alive when he came out, like screaming and moving and so much energy. And as soon as Melvin was born, his life force started to dim. Like that's what it felt like. And my birth keeper was like, I'll hold Melvin. And then at the same time, I was like, my placenta's coming. Like it was like this urgent fullness kind of coming. And it just, as soon as it came out, I was holding Dusty, and he just like in that moment for me, that is when he left. And his body went limp, and he almost smiled and like put his head back like he was in full bliss. And the peace that I experienced in that moment is like, yeah, I can't compare it to anything else. And there was nothing in me that was panicking. It just felt like it was just like this, like holy, like God was in the room. That's what it felt like. And yeah, he went limp, and then my birth keeper was prompting me to try and resuscitate him. And as I was kind of like doing little breaths in his mouth and, you know, doing all the things, just everything inside of me was like, it's not his breathing. And I like everything in me wanted to go into a dark room away from everyone and just be with him. And yeah, we called the ambulance, and the ambulance arrived, and just like as soon as they entered the room, it was just like this synthetic energy overtaking the space. And that's when the panic set in and the confusion set in. And, you know, as soon as they came into the space, they just started to try and revive Melvin, which was like really weird. We had to tell them like 4 times. I was like, no, like this one. And they just, yeah, it was like everything was in slow-mo. And then they finally took me into the ambulance and started to defibrillate.
Defibrillator.
Yeah. And give him oxygen. And my birth keeper was with me, and I just remember her saying like, do you think he's going to make it? And I just knew he was gone. But I lied and I said, I think he's going to make it. And everything in me was like, that's a lie. And then, yeah, we went to hospital. Melvin had to stay. There was like a whole scenario that played out with police and everything at our house, which was like really full on. And yeah, we got to hospital. We got to hold him for a couple of hours. They had to have like, I don't know if this happened to you, but they have to have 2 police in the room. And like, we were just like, yeah, when you see that like side of death, it's just bizarre to me. And we had, yeah, 2 cops in the room, which just was so weird. One of them was literally like where your soul lamp is, standing facing the wall, like staring at the wall like this. And I was just like, leave, like, what are you doing here? But it was just like protocol. And then, yeah, we held Dusty for hours. And then they finally kind of said, you know, we're going to take you up to a room and we're going to take him away. And they tried to test me for like all of these different diseases. They took like 13 vials of blood. And yeah, the midwives were just like, I couldn't stand them, to be honest. They just were so overly positive and like in our face, like, oh, don't worry, like you'll get to dress them when they get home. And like it was just felt super insensitive, and it was like the last kind of thing that we needed in the space. And yeah, then so we found out through Haley that the social worker on our case at the hospital didn't sign off on the papers properly. So the boys were sitting at the hospital for 2 weeks and they don't even have proper cooling there.
Oh, babe.
Yeah. And then they got to the coroners, and in that 2 weeks was when we were getting thrown around like, oh, they're not going to need autopsies. Oh, yeah, they are. Oh, we don't need them. Oh, yeah, we do. Like it was just this, torture. And then they finally got to the coroners and we went through that whole process of, just phone calls every day, trying to stop the autopsies, trying to get more information. We had friends being like, hang on, like, you know, what are your legal rights? Like, they shouldn't be allowed to do this. And you have all these like external opinions coming in. And you're like, oh, are you allowed to do this? And it's like, they just have so much power over like your creations. It's, very eye-opening. So we got Haley on board, and it wasn't until the boys kind of returned to her that she did some paperwork and found out that there was like a big fuck up basically. And we never got the option for them to come home. When they got to Haley, first of all, because you speak to like a receptionist of the coroner, you don't actually speak to the person. The receptionist said to us, she was like, I'm highly, highly recommending you not bring them home because of the condition that they're in. And that was just heartbreaking for us. And then when they got back to Haley, she kind of said the same thing, that they had been so altered. They both had their brains done. And she advised us not to see them as well. But we went and saw them at Paperbark all wrapped, but we weren't able to look at them again. So that was, really hard. Because even in the birth space, like, I only got to hold Melvin for like 30 seconds. So, and it just like, like from what I kind of know now, like I know that their spirit is actually like one person. And when I kind of connect with them, they are like one person. And when I went into the space at Paperbark and got to hold Melvin again and was like apologizing to him. He was like, I could feel like this. He was like laughing at me. He's like, what? Like, but yeah, like the whole, if we didn't have paper bark, like, yeah, our devastation would be, yeah, a lot more. But the closure that we received in that space was just so nourishing and just really, really changed everything. Like, as soon as I walked into that space, I was just like, oh, this is like what it's meant to be like. Yeah, so we were like so grateful that, yeah, we got that kind of ending. But yeah, I know you guys got to bring Dash home and yeah.
I mean, I could praise Hayley for days and what she's created, and all of the mamas that I am speaking to and connecting with that have lost a baby, especially in this area. But even in like further areas, Hayley's still servicing them because there's no one doing anything like what she offers.
Yeah.
I mean, like our hospital experience was similar. Like, they didn't test me for a lot of stuff that she just did one test in the ambulance being like, do you have diabetes? And I was like, no, like, I don't, I'm good. But we got transferred to Byron Hospital. So I know you went to Tweed.
Did Byron even do?
No, I don't know.
Birth, really, like the birth suites.
The birth suites. Like, I don't know why we got transferred to Byron in an emergency.
Yeah.
Outside of the fact that I know that Dash had already passed away. And so I think they just did it because, like, you know, you'd explained that Dusty already had, like, still had electricity, and there was already a team in place to, like, basically try and save him.
Yeah.
But what I know is that, like, Dash had already passed and they declared his time of death in the ambulance. So that was, I think, just a formality for us to, like, go to the hospital and, like, have that paperwork finalised.
Yeah.
But if he still would have had electricity, maybe we would have been taken to Lismore.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a very similar experience in the hospital, like terrible service with the midwives, like police officers too guarding the room, like, you know, you're not allowed to take any of the medical equipment off of him. Like, he's going to have the intubation tube, he's going to have the defibrillator pad, he's going to have all that stuff on him. And yeah, same thing, like when he comes back, you'll get to dress him and like take photos with him. And I mean, like, Dash came home, but he didn't look the same. Like, there's no way. Like, it had been 4 weeks since he'd passed away and he looked like a completely different baby. Like,
Yeah.
I remember looking at photos of him that were taken like a week after he'd passed, because we did end up having someone go down there and take photos of him. And when I got the photos back, I said to Tom, like, that's not Dash.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, that's Dash. And I was like, that's not. Like, he doesn't look anything like him.
Yeah.
And I just had there was no understanding for me of, like, his body deteriorating that quickly.
Yeah.
I couldn't wrap my mind around it. And we also had a similar experience where, like, the coroners were saying, yeah, we're going to call you before we do it. But then they didn't.
Yeah,
like,
they
told us and then they called us and they were like, okay, so it's been done. And we were like, what do you mean it's been done?
Yeah.
Like, when was it done? And I was looking actually at the postmortem report this morning and it was done at like 6:45 a.m.
Yeah.
So it's like, when did you call us before that? Like,
They said the same thing to us. They said, like, with the brains, she was like, I'll call you before we do it. And it was like Thursday afternoon. And then Friday we like decided, we were like, we're going to fight this. And we called all day. And usually, like, we would call first thing in the morning and the woman that was dealing with us would get back to us straight away, or we'd be put through to her straight away. And no joke, the whole day this other woman was like, oh, she's not in, she's not taking calls right now, like fully ignoring us, and we had to let that whole day kind of go. And then in the morning we got through to someone, and like it was already done, and it just felt so disrespectful. Like, yeah, there's just no, it's actually like mind baffling that this is what we have to deal with. And for us, like, we had a detective on our case, and he walked into the hospital when we were holding Dusty and said, "You're not under investigation. Like, we just have to get a statement. Like, you guys are all clear. You don't have to worry about anything. Like, there's no foul play here." Like, fully dropped the entire case. So why then do they need to do a examination if, like, they don't think that we've done anything? And of course, like, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like the whole thing, it's like, what purpose is this serving? Is this some sick individual that likes cutting up people, that they get the choice in the end, like, and we don't? It's
What was
just
they said a reason to you. What was that?
they said
Public
health and safety of society, so that this doesn't happen again. I'm like, what doesn't happen again? Death, or like having TTTS twins? Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? And she said, oh, it's so that we can like give feedback to the paramedics. I'm like, yeah, they definitely need feedback. Like, they're the ones that leaked our story. It's just, yeah.
I wonder, like, this is something that I've thought about for myself a lot. Because, yeah, like, we got to the hospital and they obviously didn't have anything to be able to keep Dash's body and preserve it in any capacity before he got taken to the coroner's. So we never got the offer to stay with him and spend a night. Did they ever offer you? I know you wanted to leave the hospital, but was that an offer?
Nah, there was no offer. Yeah, that definitely wasn't an option for us. Yeah, there was barely any options, to be honest. It was just like they were trying to find something wrong with me, and when I was kind of cleared, they were just trying to like get us out. And yeah. Apparently, like, I think Hayley was telling me that a couple of years ago they made the decision to remove all of the containers that keep bodies cold from the hospitals to save money and power at the hospitals, meaning every single case now goes to Newcastle. And yeah, like Hayley was explaining that it's caused so many difficulties, and yeah, the paperwork's still not, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of gratitude in you linking us with Hayley when you did, because I was onto that straight away. I didn't even like miss a beat in contacting them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if it would have been different if we wouldn't have contacted them, because we both on Friday and Dash was taken straight away on a Monday, but Hayley was onto it with the paperwork for us straight away. And there was like even a discrepancy in our paperwork at one point, because it was meant to go through like one council over here and then it ended up going through someone else for whatever reason. But she was straight onto it and knew exactly what to do. And he came back really quick. And he did come home, but yeah, we never, like, we dressed him and we dressed him at Paper Bark and we did those things. But we brought him back for like 30 minutes before we wrapped him. And that was like something that we'd sat with her and discussed, because I'd kind of gotten to the point where I was like, I don't really care, but I have to see him. Like, I actually have to. And she did a really good job at covering his body and like covering his head and making sure we couldn't see any of the incisions. What would you do differently if you decided to birth again? Like, I think there's a massive conversation to be had around creating a death plan. We're so focused on creating a birth plan, but like when death comes, we're so ill-equipped. And I wonder how that would be different for you now.
In a alternate reality, I would honestly go into the jungle for 9 months and birth my baby. And if my baby died, I would bury him or her in the ground and walk out. Like, yeah, that's what I would do. I would literally yeah. But that's not really possible. I mean, as you know, like, I feel like once you free birth, it's really hard to imagine another way. Like, I definitely feel like maybe we would have a scan this time. But for me, like, I don't have fear with birth. I don't even really know if I have fear with death. It's more I fear the system taking control again and taking my rite of passage away and my right to ceremony away. And it's honestly a difficult question to answer because, like, I definitely know that me and my partner are going to have another baby, and part of me just wants to keep it hidden, you know. But we live in a world where it's really hard to do that. I'd love to just fly to Mexico or Guatemala and like birth with the midwives there. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I definitely would. It's so difficult to answer because I loved my free birth, and I feel like if I had gone any other road, like, I don't know if I would have been able to carry them for as long as I did. I don't know if I would have been able to birth them the way that I did. Even if I had have had one scan and found out their condition and still free birthed, I would have been so stressed and in fear through my pregnancy, which could have changed things. So in a roundabout way, like, when we decide to free birth, we actually like remove a lot of fear because we have to go like straight into trust. And that trust becomes like this pillar because it's like you're just leaving everything to nature and to the divine will, and whatever happens is meant to be for you. Whereas as soon as we kind of like get a scan or like outsource anything, so much can happen. Like, you could go and get a scan and be told X, Y, and Z, and then all of a sudden you're questioning, like, you know, you can question if you even wanted to get pregnant again. And all of a sudden, like, yeah, you've gone from feeling so in your trust to having like hardly any at all. So yeah, I really don't know how to answer that. I think like part of me definitely still advocates. I love free birth so much, and it's not like the death of my boys wasn't because I free birthed. If anything, like, I think that they were able to be born because I free birthed. So yeah, I don't know how to answer that. And I feel like if I say anything, the trolls will be out.
Oh, not the troll.
Because I can only imagine it's like if I say I'm going to free birth again, people are like, I can't believe you would free birth again after what happened. And it's like, it's so hard to know. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would definitely consider having a scan.
Yeah.
But that's all I can really say past that. I don't know what my support would look like. And to be honest, even with both of my births, I didn't know what my support would look like until kind of later on. Yeah. What would you do? I would love to hear your answer.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I sit in the same boat as you in that respect, because I'm like, Dash didn't die because I free birthed. And yeah, in reality, he was born because I free birthed. And so it's really confusing because I think in making that choice, there was a lot of external shame that came through of people being like, this is irresponsible.
Yeah.
And so then when Dash passed, I was like, was this my doing?
Yeah.
And I think those thoughts come up regardless of where you decide to birth. You know, I know people that have lost babies birthing in hospital too. There's so many women that are sharing these stories with me. And I don't think the shame goes away. Like, it exists in all those spaces if your child dies. So you're questioning what if. But what I know to be true is that I loved my birth and there was no issues with my birth. And so I'm like, okay, but Dash passed because he had a fatal condition and there's nothing anyone could have done about that.
Yeah.
And if they would have told me at 20 weeks, your child has a fatal condition and he's not going to survive, like, yeah, it's like what you're saying. You then go through the rest of your pregnancy thinking, okay, well, this is really stressful, you know, if you choose to still birth them and know that they're going to pass. And there are women that do that. I think they're called hospice births.
Yeah.
And
that's like, you go into the system to birth your baby. Is that right?
I've seen women
Do it outside.
birthing outside of the system with support, knowing that their baby's going to pass and they've got a team around them. And so they do have like the hospice support. And in that instance, there's like obviously all the grief because you know what's coming for you, but there's so much love and there's so much presence because you know that's your final moment. So there's none of that panic.
Yeah.
But I've also got women reaching out wanting to share their stories about, that anatomy scan and having that jaw-dropping realization that their baby has like a fatal condition and, you know, you can choose to terminate now or carry to term and your baby's going to pass in, 19 to 20 weeks.
Yeah.
And I don't think either of them is an easy decision. Like, neither of them leaves you with the option that, you get to keep your baby. Neither of them is easy. But I think, like, I've thought about this so much and it's really difficult. I think for me, like, I feel like a lot of trust has been broken. And so I don't know who to call into my space that I can trust.
Yeah.
Because I know that I kicked ass. And I'm like, so I know that I've got me and I know that Tom's got me, but I think we would definitely get a scan.
Yeah.
Or maybe a couple. And at the moment we're looking at, like the genetic testing options and trying to figure out why, Dash's condition was and is it something that would ever present again.
Yeah.
And maybe it was also just like something super random.
Yeah.
Because, these conditions that you and I experienced with our boys are really rare.
Yeah.
And literally nothing we would have done in pregnancy could have done anything different for them.
Yeah.
And I think what I recognize, like, so much so is the fact that they were all born full term. And that, I think, is a testament to how healthy you and I both were through our pregnancies
100%.
and our choices. And if you're free birthing, like, absolutely, you're taking the utmost care of your body because you know that you're your number one advocate.
Yeah. And in your case, like in your podcast, you said that they might not have been able to detect it in a scan. So it's like, if you had gotten a scan and been reassured that everything was fine, like, that can happen too. So it's like there
and
was
then I would have
actually
been like also pissed at the scan technician.
100%. It's like there really is. I think that the fear of society and everything around us and social media, and there's just so much, that we have to process as women with our bodies that's not ours. And to be traveling through pregnancy and birth in this age and to also have all of those external pressures, like, it's so much to move through.
Yeah.
And, like, I just completed a training with a Chilean midwife who's all like traditional practices, and birth is so different to, you know, like ancient traditional midwives. It's a ceremony, and if a baby dies, like it's sacred. That woman immediately becomes the medicine woman of their tribe. Like it's a huge initiation. It's not something that people shame women about. And the fact that we have to move through it and then like question our own decisions of how we're, you know, birthing our children, even though we're both so crazy healthy. It's like, yeah, it's just, it's so much to, process.
Yeah. I mean, those are the people that I would like to call into my space.
We'll get them over here.
Cool, great. Let's import the amazing
Chilean
midwives from Chile.
But there needs to be a middle ground between women that are medically trained, that are fully taking on women out of the system. And so far on my journey, I know one. She's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, and she's like a medically trained midwife, but fully does like home birth, free birth, like all of that.
Wow.
So but I think for her to pull out of the system, it's so difficult.
Yeah.
And for some reason, she's been gifted this kind of training with someone who's already been doing that. So there needs to be some kind of middle ground because, like a lot of birth keepers don't have medical training. And like, I totally believe that Dash was meant to come and leave to give you a higher purpose. But, you know, there are instances where like medical training becomes like super important just to know certain things. And
Totally.
like we can be trained in birth in our own way and do all of the sovereign birth stuff, and like we both did. But when it comes to certain medical conditions, like we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to sit back also right after you've had birth. Like, you know, instinctually, I knew something was off, but you're in such an altered state. And so although you know, it's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And just to have those like really incredibly trained, knowledgeable hands and women around in a space like that can really change a lot. It can even, I mean, we only had like one experience of birth. I know you've obviously had two, but I just hear from so many people about obviously the energies that come into a birth space completely altering how they feel comfortable. And does the baby slow down? Do the contractions slow down? Like, what's happening in the birth space when someone enters that shouldn't be there? But if you have the right people in your space that have that really grounded energy and they're completely on the same page as you, birth can happen really beautifully and easily.
Yeah.
And there are absolutely emergencies, and there are absolutely a time and place for those emergencies to be medically, you know, like managed. But there's so many things also that are medically managed that maybe don't need to be if they were just understood a little bit better and with a little bit more grace and reverence for what the body is doing and the timing of the body instead of rushing things. Like, nothing for either of us was rushed. And I know in your birth with Casper, like, they were trying to get stuff going and happening, and you were like,
yeah, it was a totally different scenario.
Yeah.
But like, it's either like you're in the system and you're coming up against like just one thing after another and intervention after intervention. And like what I saw with Casper's birth, it's like they would intervene and then have another intervention for that intervention. And then it's just this tumbleweed. Like, they were like, oh, we need to put him on a glucose drip because he hasn't been breastfed yet. And I'm sitting there and like my boobs are exploding and I'm like, what? And it's like, oh, because we put him on the glucose drip and he now can't have any breast milk. Like, it's just it's a bit stupid, to be honest. And it's like they make these decisions to try and like help, but then that decision just puts them further away from the answer. And I feel like yeah, like, you know, having like a sovereign birth keeper or someone that's totally out of the system, it's like you've just got a friend there. Really, you've just got the emotional support. If those worlds came together and the system actually started like stepping back a bit and like trusting women more and like actually providing like birth spaces that work for birth. Like even when I went to the Byron Midwifery Center to birth, like the lights, the aircon, like everything in there was not suitable for birth at all. And the fact that that is their main kind of section for birth, it's just like, hang on, this needs to be redesigned, because what you guys know about birth is like birth is a surgery. And what we know about birth is it's the complete opposite. It's a natural kind of way. And it's like if we were able to bring those two together, then women would feel so much safer in the hands of the system.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably a long way from that.
Yeah. I hope it's not. I agree with you, because I'm like, yeah. I mean, I sit on the other side of death, and I'm like thinking about those decisions all the time. Like, how do I feel safe? How do I learn to regain trust? How do I work through the trauma that does exist and is apparent and I can't avoid because it is smacking me in the face every day? And how do I make a better decision next time so that I feel safe, but also so that I birth with integrity in the way that I want to be held?
Yeah.
And it's so hard to imagine that I can have that option and have that middle ground.
Yeah.
And it feels really tricky. Like, that's why I wanted to ask you that question, because I'm like, I don't even know
And it
myself.
shouldn't be tricky. Like we should just have the support that we need.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, it is. It's a lot. It's a big decision to kind of think through.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like in both of my pregnancies, well, most of all in my pregnancy with my twins, like the answer kind of like came through to me. And yeah, it was just to be with them and not really have anyone in the space. And it was actually a really big decision for us to have a birth keeper there. Like I hired her and then kind of fired her and then brought her back in because my partner and her really clicked. And I realized that maybe he needed the support as well. And like I'm so grateful she was in the space, because like I couldn't, like there was so much going on. And like even like, because my son, like Casper woke up. Yeah, he was there for the whole thing. And like, I was like holding both of them in this kind of state of shock in the absolute portal of it all. And he was like grabbing stuff and throwing it into the pool and laughing. Like he threw the torch. Like I don't even know where he got this torch from. Like it was just like this, yeah, it was like,
You just
I was
didn't.
in this and then I was just like, oh my God. Like, and he was like laughing and like, yeah, it was very beautiful having him there. He just cut through it all and he still does. Like, yeah, I mean, I can only imagine how hard it is for you guys going through this with your first child. Whereas for me, I have my son and yeah, he's just such a healing balm. Like it's actually hard to fully be in the grief because he just wants to play and have fun all the time. And you're just like, oh, okay.
Kind of nice though.
Yeah, yeah.
What's his experience been like in understanding, or maybe not understanding, the loss?
I mean, he was 1.5, so he's 2.5 now. And yeah, when it first happened, there was for the first, like, I mean, I had insomnia for maybe like 3 or 4 months. But he was very restless and kind of having nightmares. And yeah, I deeply felt his process. I knew that he couldn't understand it. but I knew that he was sad. And yeah, I just try and talk about them all the time to him, and he just loves babies. And, you know, there's so much sadness in it as well, because I imagine him with siblings and the fact that he doesn't have that yet. But yeah, I definitely like 100% feel another like spirit coming through. And yeah, like it doesn't not excite me to have more children. If anything, it like, yeah, in a way, like them coming through, I feel like has been like a deep ancestral cleansing and a reclaiming of power in my line somehow. And by, you know, claiming death and, you know, having a free birth and, yeah, just standing in my power, I feel the next child that comes through is going to be gifted all of that. And, you know, my life is so much more like wholesome and slower and different now. So, yeah, like there's gifts.
Yeah, definitely. So what are some of the ways that you guys honor Dusty and Melvin together? Like, do you have any rituals that you like to do that are regular or occasional?
I was saying to my partner the other day, like, it was Valentine's Day and we were like thinking about doing something. And we just have such a special life together. Like, I'm not going to say we both barely work, but Tom's a tattooer, so he works on his own time, and I do also. So we have the luxury of being able to support our lives, we live very minimally, but we spend a lot of time with our son. We're both really hands-on with him. We don't have any care. I have an amazing family that take Caspar when we need time and space. And for us, like, we're just always doing the most incredible things. Like, we're always in nature together. We're always celebrating life. So for me, it feels like everything is just like a celebration and a ceremony of them, really. And, you know, I'm like constantly saging the house. I'm constantly, you know, it becomes not just a single thing you do, but it becomes your life of like honoring them. And I'm sure you kind of like do the same. And then you have little, you know, like for their birthday, I made candles, and you become inspired, really. And, you know, all of the work that I do and the circles that I hold, and it's all for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing, babe. I mean, there's so many beautiful gifts that you're giving everyone with sharing your story, and like just opening that circle, I think, was like the first time that a lot of women had probably felt held in their grief and their loss.
Yeah.
And it's how so many women are connecting, and it's not just like in this area, it's worldwide. Like there's people from all over attending.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And like, yeah, your life just completely transforms after you've been through what we've been through. And yeah, you can't really, it's hard to go back. Yeah.
What were some of the things that you found the most helpful in the last year? Like things that didn't feel helpful, things that did?
For me, like definitely choir. I've never really sung. Like I used to do choir in primary school, but yeah, just I find that if there's something that I'm pushing away from, I'm finding myself, I'm like, that's where I have to go. And for me, activating my voice and singing when you're in such a vulnerable state is really difficult. And once you do it, like the healing that comes with that has been, yeah, like choir honestly healed my social anxiety. So that was a really big one. I just like completed this psychic somatic training. So like really activating and like just exploring my kind of like psychic ability that we all have, especially as women. So that's been really powerful and really beautiful. Meditation. Yeah. And then like, especially just like my like deep connection I have with friends and women it's really altered. It's like now I have like these beacons that I can trust, and we're just so deep and knitted. And then all of these other kind of friendships that weren't serving me have definitely kind of like flooded away a little bit and become like, yeah, like that my energy is definitely pivoted towards women that I know I can like be this deep with, that understand, that are going to hold me, that are going to like, you know, allow me to be vulnerable. And I think that, yeah, like just going towards those places that feel hard, especially like, yeah, like women's circles and all that. And like on the birth retreat that I just did, I was involved in doing placenta medicine, and it was so hard for me to be in that space. And yeah, it was the boys' like 11-month anniversary, and it was very, very overwhelming. I ended up like taking myself out of the room and having like a full breakdown and returning to the space. And as soon as I returned, someone was like, do you want to do the encapsulation? And I was like, sure. And it was like, as soon as I touched the placenta, it was like all of the ritual that I didn't get from my placentas was like gifted back to me by servicing and by supporting another woman to have that. So just, yeah, like the places that are hard become the places that have the most healing. But yeah, I'm not going to the grocery store when I feel like those places are hard, and I'm like, I don't need to do that.
Yeah. We have other options.
Yeah.
We don't need to put ourselves through that. It's overwhelming and stressful.
Yeah. But yeah, they've been the most kind of like beautiful for me.
It's amazing.
And what about you?
I don't even really know exactly what's helping me at the moment outside of having conversations with women that have gone through loss. That's like been my biggest ally.
Yeah.
At the moment. And art too, but I don't know, I've always done art, but I haven't been able to like completely get into it in the same ways that I used to.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, I mean, there's like, as you can see around the room, there's like half-finished projects like over there on the floor, and like I haven't touched it for weeks, and it feels really hard to access those channels of creativity. And I'm forcing myself in moments because I know it's good for me and creativity lights me up. But yeah, I really struggle in moments. And I think, yeah, like there's this huge part of me that is really, really struggling with sleep. That's like my biggest dysregulation at the moment.
Yeah.
And I actually went and saw an incredible doctor in town who's a functional medicine doctor, and he was talking about basically just what happens when you lose a child and the way that your brain is impacted because the hormones don't replicate or produce in the same ways as they would if you had a child, because you're thinking about a child as a reward. And what your body is realizing is like, oh, there's a baby here, we've given birth, there's the baby. Yay, like we can get through sleeplessness of breastfeeding, and then we see the baby and like oxytocin's produced and the hormones are all good, and then you go back to sleep and you kind of create more of a rhythm. But within, you know, mothers that experience loss, and especially around the time of birth, there's like this entire study being done on this, and it's called the neurobiology of loss. And basically like the black holes that get created in your brain because the hormones aren't creating, or the hormones aren't being created in the same way. And so you're not feeling productive. You don't want to be creative. Like, we're looking at like postnatal depletion and stuff. And that's been really quite a challenge for me the last couple of weeks. And I'm getting support for it now, but it's been really, really difficult to navigate. And that's mostly the most helpful thing. And then I think for sure, I resonate so much with what you said about, you know, telling your story and that weight that gets lifted, like sharing my story so close to my chest for that first 6 months was amazing. But it was difficult too, because for the greater community, I felt really misunderstood.
Yeah.
And to be able to share it and to be so intimate about the truth of what we really went through was, yeah, like a massive help to be like, okay, this is why I can't come out. And this is why I don't feel comfortable being in a group with 10 babies, because that doesn't support my nervous system right now, because what happened was really traumatizing.
Yeah.
And I think there's a part of me too that just needs to accept that and not try and like push myself.
Yeah.
Because for a long time I was sitting, well, not a long time, it's only been 6 months, but for a short time I was like, should I just do exposure therapy? Like, should I just expose myself to these situations? And then I was like, absolutely not. Like, I am so triggered. My nervous system is completely destroyed. Like, going to the farmer's market, horrible.
No,
Horrible.
I haven't been to the, no. That's like, yeah, the one place I'm like, I can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too many people. But like a lot of people don't, it's hard to, like the snapback culture is so prevalent. And like for me, like the physical healing has been so difficult. Like you want to, like for me, I love exercising and love, you know, like being out in nature and just not having any energy to do that. And, you know, I was getting sick every 2 weeks after the boys passed. I bled for 6 weeks straight. I then had my period every 2 weeks for 3 months. Like, it's such a big adjustment. And to, yeah, walk down the street and go from being this happy, well-known person in the community where you're vibrant and healthy to feeling completely different, and then to also not have your physical energy to, you know, be feeling grief and loss and judgment it's a lot to bear.
Yeah.
And I think society has this like image of women birthing and then just like, you know, especially like because we're so healthy, that image is so, you know, strong, and it's like, it's so difficult. Like,
Well, but to your point, I've almost felt like because Dash isn't here anymore, there's been an emphasis on that snapback.
100%.
Because people are like, well, you don't have a baby. Like, you don't have anyone to take care of. And I'm like, oh, I can barely take care of myself right now. Like,
yeah.
I'm grieving one of the most devastating losses I'll ever experience in my life. I literally don't have the capacity to snap back and get a job and do all of these things. And people just see the outside of that and they go, oh, well, it's just like before you gave birth, right? And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, it could never be.
Yeah.
And it will never be.
Yeah. I can genuinely say that mothering a spirit child is so much bigger than mothering a physical child. Like, when a physical child is born and like lives and grows, like they slowly start to get their own identity. Like, when we have a spirit child, we are so tethered to them, and they are so big because they never came fully into the physical. Whereas Caspar, my son, his development is so beautiful, but he's becoming his own being every single day, whereas they are always, you know, so big and so with us. And that's what a lot of women, like, well, a lot of people don't understand. It's like, oh yeah, but like you should be fine because, you know, like you've got your time and your space, and it's
Maybe in the physical world, like that's what you see on the outside, but internally, emotionally, spiritually, like mentally,
yeah,
our minds aren't necessarily being like, we've got all the time in the world, because they're really full. I mean, I know mine's really full.
yeah. I mean, it's taken me. I went for my first surf last week.
I saw.
Yeah, and like I was I'm still exhausted from it.
Yeah.
Like I was out for like 20 minutes. Like the impact that it has on the physical body is, a lot of people can't comprehend it. So yeah, it takes time really, but yeah, you've just got to like trust yourself as well and just not give into that external world so much. Like it's so challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I try that most of the time. I'm just like, I'm just going to stay home because it's safe here, and I know that nothing's coming into my field that I'm going to be triggered or upset by or like overwhelmed by.
Yeah.
And I mean, even where I live, like just walking up the road to go and get mail, I'm panicked some days where I'm like, am I going to bump into someone that's going to want to have a conversation when I'm not feeling good?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy how much it changes those aspects, because I was never that person before.
Yeah.
You just
live
to-
freely.
Yeah. I just was so carefree.
I mean, it's taken me like the last month I've started going to cafes to work again.
Yeah.
So yes, I haven't gone to the farmers markets yet. I went to Santos for the first time since the boys passed, like yesterday. So it's just like, yeah, you just kind of ease out and you're like, oh, come on back.
Yeah. One of the things that was really helpful for you was when you guys went away. How did that like experience differ in terms of being carefree again? Did you feel like you were able to access a younger version of yourself that hadn't experienced the loss?
Yeah, 100%. It was just like a breath of fresh air. Just even walking through an airport, not knowing anyone, I was like, ah. And yeah, like just that freedom of like, yeah, not knowing anyone was really gave us a lot of space. And yeah, we were still so deep in it. It was still, yeah, we were still very much in our grief, but we got moments where we felt normal, which was really nice. And I know you had the most amazing trip to Bali as well. And yeah, it really, yeah, I mean, this place is so amazing because of the community and all the support that we have here, but it can also be like a bit of a trap of just, yeah, you know, so many people, and yeah, having that reprieve of being in a new place is, yeah, so healthy. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming and talking and spending some time with me. I guess my only question is, like, is there anything else you'd like to add and anything you'd like women to know?
No, I think we've like covered everything. Yeah, I'm just like so excited for you to like walk this path of expressing your creativity. And yeah, for me, like I dabble in many creative projects as well, and it's all shifted. Like you find the thing that you can do, and you just do that. And if that's speaking to people, then just do that. Like, yeah, I've found that writing for me is my new thing, and I've never been a writer before. And now it's like, the main source that I turn to creatively, and processing my grief with that creativity is like, so nourishing. And that's kind of like what I'm focusing on. And I'm just really proud of you and in awe of you. And it's just so weird to be on this path together, and but also so nice to have each other in the weirdest way.
Yeah, it is.
So thank you.
Thank you, babe. I've loved everything that you've been writing as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's been so helpful.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I read it and I'm like, oh, I feel that so deeply, more than I can express. And it's just like taking a moment to go, okay, I'm not alone in this, and there are amazing women out there who really get it.
Yeah.
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 So where can we find you? On Substack and Instagram and all the things?
You can find me on Spirit Mama's Instagram and Spirit Mama's Substack. And I guess I've just kind of launched my first like proper birth offering, called Birthing the Psychic, for like pregnant women that want to explore, I guess, like being more in touch with their spiritual side through pregnancy and how that can empower you in birth. Because for me, after everything I've been through, I realized that's like the missing link in like birth prep. So I've just put that out into the world, and
Incredible.
it's exciting. And also like, I just never ever imagined that I would be doing anything like this, and the like, just the soul purpose that comes through me when I do it feels so right. And I'm like, wow, like I can't imagine my life not doing this. So in the craziest way, like, like you get to a place where you like, I wouldn't change anything because of my life right now. Is, I've learnt so much, and everything has shifted to be more wholesome, and everything's a bit more beautiful.
And those are the gifts that you've been talking about.
And you just like, for me, like I'm so much more dedicated to life now that I've been through what I've been through.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to be.
Yeah.
It's like you stop taking all these little things for granted.
100%.
Mm.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.